Good morning, YouTube. We are at Lemoore this morning, and we're going to fly to Paso Robles Municipal. It's overcast, so we'll probably experience some winds. We use the G1000 this morning. All right, so I have an idea of everything I want to do, so I'm going to go ahead and program all that in, and then we'll get in the air. But we'll check with ATIS during the flight if we can't pick up the channel here on the ground, and then we'll change our flight plan if necessary, according to the information we get from ATIS. All right, so we'll fly to 114.3 with a bearing of 207. Let's see now, 114.3. Let's pull that out. Okay, so it doesn't actually measure us our distance yet, but we'll see what happens during flight there. Well, since we're outdoors, just taking a sip of coffee there. All right, we'll fly at an altitude of 6,000 feet. Our minimum decision is about 1,000 feet, 1,062. ATIS is 120.125. 120.125. Our distance right now is roughly 51 miles from where we're heading. All right. So I was thinking of doing an approach at runway 19 using Havel. KPRB. I can't see these small letters. Excuse me. Let me make this bigger. Yeah, that's where we're heading. So we don't have much for options here. We we've got 19 or 31. I'm just going to go ahead and put in 19 and hope that that's what we get to do. And I said Hovel, but I must have left out the I. So Hoveli or Hovely. No, we won't be doing a course reversal. Barrel minimums was 1068. I believe it was 1062. So 60 or 70, we'll just set it for 60. And we'll go ahead and activate. Alright, now, and I also want to get the GPS bearing on there. All the lights, beacons. Good, okay. Releasing the brakes. Rotating. engaging the autopilot. Turning off the landing and taxi lights. Alright, we picked up the NAV1 radio. Still don't hear anything on ATIS. 120.125.
Paso Robles Municipal.
There we go.
Wind 160 at 22 gust 29. Visibility more than 10. Rain. Sky conditions 3000 broken. 6000 overcast. Temperature 2.7. Altimeter 2980.
Altimeter set to 2980.
Paso Robles Muni weather. Wind 160 at 22 gust 29. Visibility more than 10. Rain. Sky conditions 3000 broken. 6000 overcast. Temperature 2.7. Altimeter 2980.
And they're not really telling us which runway we can land at, so we'll leave it the way we've got it. So that's good. Let me listen to the winds one more time. I really didn't pay attention to that part.
Paso Robles Muni weather. Wind 160 at 22 gust 29. Visibility more than 10. Rain. Sky conditions 3000 broken. 6000 overcast.
I don't really need to listen to the wind when I've also got it right here. It's windy. It's windy this morning. So now with the G1000 we get a little bit more information that we don't get from other. We can get the same information from the GTN 750, but with this one, this 4,400 feet here for Hobley, it's going to show up in magenta here as we get closer, and I'll know that I need to descend to 4,100 feet. At this point, I'll be climbing to about 6,000 feet, which I've predetermined that might be a decent altitude for this flight. I won't know. It is overcast, so we'll probably be in the clouds a little bit. Terrain's starting to look good. We want to make sure all the red and the brighter yellow is gone. The lighter yellow should be alright, but the brighter yellow needs to go away. Seems like the winds are a little stronger up here at this altitude. Say goodbye to the valley. We won't be seeing it much longer. $1,000 below 6. And now we have our magenta 4400 that we'll need to be at by the time we reach Hobley. So I'll probably descend just as we're starting to cross over these mountains here into the valley. Lemoore Valley. Oh, it's there. We just can't see it. We're leveling off at 6,000 feet. I'll probably keep our RPMs around 2,500. So our primary function display is showing about 110 knots, our true airspeed being about 120 knots, and our ground speed over here being about 90 knots. But with the head, a little bit of a head and a crosswind there at 38, it's no wonder we're only doing 90 knots ground speed. I would be much better suited to actually do the course reversal and fly into the airport from the opposite direction than to fly with a tailwind. But the way I have it set now, we'll be turning a little bit, but not that much. Maybe it will be a real. That we'll just have to see. I'm having a little difficulty right now visualizing it in my head of what direction the winds are going to be at when we approach Hovley. Probably that much more of a crosswind. It wouldn't matter if we went the opposite direction, and that's probably why they didn't announce which runway, because you're going to get a crosswind irregardless of whether or not you head to it in one direction or do the course reversal and head to it from another direction. It's just going to cross you at either the right or the left side. And yesterday I was reviewing the video from yesterday morning. So last night I was reviewing it, and I was noticing that the countdown time, like if you notice the estimated time en route, it's 14:42, and it looks like it's decrementing in decent seconds. Well, if you go and review the video from yesterday when we were approaching the runway, the winds were so strong, our estimated time en route kept adjusting. So it might go down a couple of seconds, and then it would go back up 3 seconds, and go down a couple of seconds, and it just kept doing that over and over for the gusty winds. It was crazy trying to get to that runway yesterday morning. It was, and the landing wasn't that bad, but I was trying to get down to the glide path, and I was well below the glide path and just wasn't even aware of it. I was so intent on getting down to the glide path. I don't know what I was looking at or what I was thinking, but it's like, what am I doing? I'm below the glide path. I need to climb. So yeah, I had a crazy moment there. It happens. So you know what you're doing for the most part, but then you go and do something dumb anyways. Oh yeah, keeps it interesting, I guess. But it makes you ask yourself, what am I thinking? Like, what was making me think I needed to get down to the glide path when obviously I was well below it? Like, was I being dyslexic at the moment and thinking, the opposite of the way things should be based on the VOR1 indicator, or what's going on here? So for this flight, I've already selected the approach with the autopilot, which is what this GPV means. So once we actually get to where the approach begins, it will automatically pick it up. We'll see an extra line here with a magenta dot in there that tells us where the glide path is. and whether or not we're on it. If we're on it, it'll be right there. Um, and this will switch to a green GP once we intercept the glide path. But in the G1000, it's like, when you turn on your autopilot and you know you're going to be flying an RNAV approach, you could just select it. You don't have to wait until you get there. You just turn it on. And it will, all I have to really be aware of is that I'm at the required altitude, which in that case will be around 4,400 for the initial air fix, and then the autopilot's going to do the rest. And worst case scenario, I might have to drop to another 3,400 before the autopilot kicks in at maybe Jerbu. But if I watch those magenta indicators for what altitude I should be at and fly to them, that's about the only thing I really need to pay attention to. "90 knots ground speed." We're really moving along here. But yeah, I don't know that I'm envisioning it properly, but my guess is when I turn, it's going to be that much more of a crosswind. If not, slightly more of a headwind, and that wouldn't be so bad. Yeah, I think we're going to be turning into it, and it will be more of a headwind. So it'll slow us down some. We'll be crawling or creeping to the runway, but we should be all right. If I'm mistaken in my assessment, I'll call it out once I notice. Call attention to it. The thing about the real world weather is it actually uses up a lot more GPU and graphic resources than clear weather. All these clouds. So if the screen stutters, or if it just doesn't look good on YouTube, that's why. Yesterday's video didn't look too bad. The only real issue that I would call out is that approach to the runway. It being advancing a couple seconds and then going back a few seconds. That was the weirdest thing to me. Some clear skies up there. Look at that. All right, and that's me taking a sip of coffee. I have to see if I can resituate this track IR and get it so it doesn't do that. So according to this, we're 11 miles from Havli, and we're only just now getting to the mountains. So I think what I'll do is I'll do a slow descent and just watch as we go. I'll do 500 feet per minute. But yes, I'll be very watchful. Try to. I'll back down the throttle a little bit so we don't redline. And I need to switch this to 4400. There we are. And I think I'll watch the inset map here to see if I see any yellow, bright yellow. That little orange I'm not so concerned about, but the bright yellow for the terrain, excuse me, I am concerned about. So it looks like we're coming over the peak of the mountain right now, and everything after that is going to be a gradual decline. As far as the mountain is concerned. I don't see any treetops, any mountaintop. Nothing substantial. We're probably just fine. Just me being a little overcautious. I have run into the side of mountains before. Relying on my equipment. In fact, a G1000, just like this one. And in that instance, I was not aware of the fact that terrain was not enabled by default. And I did not enable terrain, and therefore I thought I was safe. And, well, it turned out I was not. So we're at 4,800 for 44. Looking good. Getting a little yellow on the inset map over the mountains we just crossed, but it was not in our path. And I'll be looking at the next set of mountains that will pass over right here, right where Hovley is. But given the fact that we're to be at 4,400 feet at that fix means we're probably okay over those mountains. But you know what assuming does? Ooh, I do see some ground down there a little bit. Looks well below us. That's good. About the time I say that, we get more clouds. Yeah, we get more clouds. No longer the ground again, but I was hoping maybe at 4,400 feet we'd see. That's all right. We'll be able to see at some point. We look good on the inset map. There's no bright yellow areas that we might impact with. I'm going to increase our throttle to 2,500 RPMs now that we've leveled off. Keep us moving about as quick as possible. Given these winds, 36 mile or 36 knot winds. So once we reach Hovley, I'll be looking to see if this magenta changes, and then I'll be adjusting the altitude if necessary. But until then, I want to see what it might be. 3,400, and I can always adjust it on my primary function display to 3,400 and begin to descend if I need to. Looks like the winds are bouncing us around a little bit, but we are coming over the mountains, so that's a good reason. A little more dense fog here, a little darker too. Alright, we've gotten our glide slope bar. We don't have a magenta dot yet because we haven't quite intercepted it, but we do have this new information for us. We've not intercepted the glide path because that's still white, not green. I'm going to go ahead and turn the landing and taxi lights on so I don't forget. You'll see those buttons move here. Alright, we have a 3400 altitude, so I'm going to adjust and go ahead and do vertical speed of 500 feet. We have 3 miles to get there. I'm sure we can get 1,000 feet. Well, I can go a little faster, why not? Go ahead and back up on the throttle a little bit, 2400 RPMs, 2450. A little more visibility as we descend. And that's probably our runway right there. We're about to level off at 3,400. And I'll start slowing the aircraft down, preparing for landing. Probably hold off to the last minute for the flaps, mostly. Maybe one flap. Okay. For some reason we've lost our glide path bar. Oh, it just came back. Okay. Now it's going away and coming back. We'll just be patient. Maybe once it reaches whoop, and we'll give it a little more power here. That might be part of the reason we're losing it, because we're below it or something. There we are. We're about to intercept it, and I'll be watching for the aircraft to descend. We are descending a little bit, so that's good. I want to be able to see the runway. Okay, I'm slowing the aircraft down now. I'll give it some flaps to get us at a better angle. And we have a left headish crosswind. So we're at a bit of an angle as we approach. We're still decrementing in seconds, and it's not adjusting forward as it was yesterday. That's good. That's a plus. All right, I'm gonna give it more flaps and more power. I'm having a bit of a challenge seeing the runway this morning. No more than 2 flaps, and I may just come in faster than normal. We're doing a ground speed of about 46 knots. So I'll probably take us in around 80 knots. Or at least until I can see the runway adequately. I mean, I can see it, but it's just right there at the tip of the dash, and usually I'm approaching at it from a better angle. So our MDA is what, 1062. I might wait a little longer before disengaging the autopilot. We'll just see. I don't. I mean, yesterday I spent. Well, I pretty much manually flew it all the way in. So today I know I can see the runway, and I could disengage at 1160, but I'd rather avoid having to deal with the winds personally or manually until the last minute. So we're coming in at 51 knots ground speed now. I'm also hoping that as we get a little closer to the ground, the winds won't be as bad. And it does seem like it's decrementing a little bit. We just hit 29 as I said that. I'm looking at this little indicator right here. I might back the throttle down just a tad, see what happens. $1,900 feet. Winds are decrementing a little bit. 26 knot winds. Well, they just jumped back up to 30. Yeah, we don't want to count our chickens, but it was looking good there for a second. 1,500 feet. My MDA would be in another 400 feet or so. Again, I'll probably wait until I'm a lot closer before I disengage the autopilot. I'm going to slow the aircraft down just a little bit more. I'm doing it in small bits. Idealistically, I fly in at about 60 knots. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put my hands on the yoke, and I'm ready to take over. We are at 1080. 1060 would be my MDA. We'll probably get...
Minimums.
There we are. Now, I'm probably not going to do nearly as good as the aircraft was doing. When it's on a good glide path, you know, and I disengage the autopilot and there's no winds, sometimes it feels like I'm still on the glide path and I never did disengage the autopilot. But today, not so. Not so. All right, come on now. Flaps up. We just left a little rubber. Yeah, I'm having trouble staying on the lines. I'm giving it a lot of pedal here, rudder pedals. try to stay on that line, and it just it's, not a bad landing overall for the winds. Pretty soft. I'm pretty sure I didn't do a hard landing at all. I'll be appreciating some decent weather. I'm hoping as the further south we get, the better the weather will get. And I could be wrong. It might be more tropical down there and worse. I might be doing the opposite of what I should be doing. Flying into the storm instead of away from it. I've considered it, but I'm going south anyways. I haven't done any real world weather research to determine whether or not I should or should not head in that direction. I'm just going south. Now we have a bit of a tailwind, yet I'm still giving it a lot of power to move forward. The tailwind's not very much, at least by the look of the indicator. And we'll park by that Cessna there. All right. Well, I nosed down on the line. That was good. I just couldn't taxi on the line. All right, YouTube. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. I'll see you next time.